Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. The cool sounds of smooth jazz.
All right. Welcome to track T9. This is the obligatory reminder to fill out your evaluations at the end of the session. Please do note that this session is being streamed, live streamed. So 2 notes about questions. When you have a question, you'll need the mic because we want the questions to be broadcast as well. And if you do not want to have your question broadcast, we can figure something out. So thank you for coming. We have Joel Vertin from Michigan Technological University to talk about being the MVP of managers.
Ooh. Hey. Booyah. All right, thanks everyone for being here for my presentation today entitled Be the MVP of Managers. Thank you everyone who's on the live stream as well. I've been told that my voice and slides will be on the live stream, but not my face, which is good because I have a face for radio. As for all of you in the room, I'm sorry. I'm kidding. My name is Joel Vertin. I'm the Director for Digital Services within University Marketing and Communications at Michigan Technological University. I've presented at the last few HideWeb conferences. Really excited about this topic, being a good manager and a good leader. And I'm thankful that you guys are all here with me today. Background, I've got a bachelor's in management information systems. That's kind of where I get my technical background. And then I've got my master's in business as well. Official conference hashtag and the session hashtags in the bottom left corner of the slides. Hit me up on Twitter. Would love to see some Twitter action. Username @JCVertin. You guys can find me online. Michigan Tech, public research university. We're located in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, about 5.5, 6 hours north of here, actually, the better part of Michigan. Our student population is a little more than 7,000 total students. This is Houghton. This is our campus. We're located on the Portage Canal. Portage Canal connects into Lake Superior. Absolute gorgeous and wonderful place to live and work. Fun fact, our university owns our own ski hill, Mount Ripley. Our campus is in the background, kind of the left corner there. Super neat place. If you guys ever get up north, look me up. So enough about me. Who are you guys? Why are you guys here? Some of you are already managers. You have your own professional staff, or you've got student employees. Some of you are aspiring to manage sometime in the future, and you've taken some time out of your day. You've chosen to come to this presentation to build your own skills, take some time for you to get better, and that's awesome. And I hope that through my experiences and my education that I'm able to help you guys all be better managers and better leaders. And so why do we want to be better? Why do we need to be better as managers and leaders? And to answer that, let's talk a little bit about life and higher education. Life and higher education, they are hippos or highly paid personal opinions lurking at every turn. They don't always get what you do, but they have input, and it throws everything off sometimes. We all have short deadlines and surprises. Higher ed is famous for giant piles of projects. Too many projects, not enough people, right? You guys, this is what we live through. Sleepless nights, stress and anxiety. We're all dealing with enrollment numbers craze right now. Everyone's needing to increase enrollment or stem the reduction of enrollment. Well, there's a lot of pressure to get people to click that giant apply now button that's on every page of your website. How do we deal with all of this? How do we survive this? How do we make sure that our teams survive this? There's a lot of things we would like to do. We would like to pay our teams more. We would like to manage scope. We would like to reduce the number of projects. Some of that stuff's out of our control, but there is something that is in our control. There's two things we can change. We can change ourselves as managers and leaders, and we can change how we manage our teams. We can shine a light on our team, the light that our team needs and the light that our team deserves. So I could talk for quite a long while about how to be a good manager, could do a whole semester on it. But lucky for you guys, I've only got maybe 40 minutes to go through some things. So I boil it down to 4 points, and these 4 points are what I'm most passionate about, what I think is most important. If you can be good in these 4 areas, my argument is you will be a good manager. And so to jump right in, the first point is leadership, and with that, the question is, what does it mean to be a leader? And there's so many ways that you could answer that, but I've got a story. So I was the manager of our web team, and I was asked by my manager to take over managing our student team, our studio team, and essentially merging our web team and our studio team underneath a digital services umbrella. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. And so I'm having my first one-on-one meeting with one of my new employees, and I had worked with this person for several years prior, obviously just not in this role. And so we sit down, and the first thing they ask me before anything else, they say, what will you do for me as my manager? And that's a really fascinating question. A lot of managers, you might be used to it maybe being the other way around, where the manager is saying, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to get through all these projects, etc. But no, they asked me what I was going to do for them. And I thought, honestly, that's the perfect question. And it goes along with this quote. This quote's from a famous former NFL coach, Tony Dungy. If you don't know who Tony Dungy is, you can click the link and read more. But he says, the secret to success is good leadership, and good leadership is all about making the lives of your team members or workers better. And I think that's perfect. At the core, a leader is not someone who gets the most projects done. They're not the fastest. They don't come in under budget. They don't boost enrollment. They make the lives of their people better. If you do that, all the other stuff that your boss or your VP or whatever wants, that stuff's going to fall into place. And so that's a tall order. How do you do that? How do you make the lives of your people better? You get to know them as people. You all are people. I'm a person. Our team members are people. We are all human beings. We have backgrounds. We have stories. We have triumphs. We have issues. Get to know the stories of your people, how they're motivated, what their personalities are, what their preferences are. You do that, you're going to build a connection. You will build compassion and trust. You will care. You will love, empathy, and respect. That is what you need to do. This is a quote. This is from a bigger article on the Harvard Business Review. You can hit the link in here to read the full thing. I highly recommend it. But the point out of here that I wanted to pull, love is not a word that you often hear uttered in office hallways or conference rooms, and yet it has a strong influence on workplace outcomes. Now, the whole presentation isn't going to be all mushy. I promise there's a bunch of fancy MBA theory stuff that's in here, but this is most important. A lot of people shy away from admitting the human element. It is okay to create sort of an emotional culture within your team that you acknowledge the backgrounds and the stories and the baggage and everything that comes with the people when they come into the office. How do you show your team that you love them? It'd be much easier to be the business-minded, hard-nosed leader that just cares about the bottom line. I'm giving you a green light not to do that. So there's many ways you can show them you love them. Article on Inc.com's got 9 ways to do it. I can tell you that what I do in my office is I absolutely care about my people, my team, and I get to know them. Some have families, some have pets, some different hobbies, like people that like golfing, people that like to curl, knitting, tattoos, comic books, you name it, they got it, and it's all really neat, and I care about it. We've got a Slack group and different Slack channels within the team. Half of it's dedicated to work. The other half of it is dedicated to the personal side of things. We know each other's birthdays and favorite colors and all these other silly things. So many ways that you can do this. But I also want to stress, there's not necessarily a right answer to this, because again, we're all people. All of you in the room, you have different personalities and different comfort levels. Some of you are more shy, some are more outgoing, business versus personal, open versus private. I'm not telling you to make up something that you're not. You need to be authentic. But what I am doing is raising an awareness and giving you a green light to do this. Some of you may say, isn't this just simply being a good human being? Heck yes, it is. It is definitely being a good human being. And if you don't want to take my word for it as opinion, there are many articles out there that are touching on this that argue that any good or successful leader is someone who brings the human element into the workplace. And so you got Forbes, HBR, read other articles, read about this. It's like a hip trend or whatever, but more than that, it is real. And this is the way things should go, and so do this. I'm raising awareness and giving you guys a green light. All right, let's get into some theory then. Successful leaders are able to motivate, so we're going to talk about motivation. If you can understand how your people are motivated as a manager, there's a few things you can do. You can set up their jobs, their tasks, their projects, how they communicate with one another, reward systems. You can set this up in a way that makes their jobs in and of themselves more rewarding, more motivating. Your employees will be more happy and more successful. So there's 3 people in this picture. The person on the left is jumping for joy. Perhaps they're really motivated by achievement. They love a challenge. They meet that challenge. That's how they're motivated. Person in the middle with the trophy, you could say that the spotlight is kind of on them. They love attention. They may be motivated by getting that attention. Person on the right with the megaphone, maybe they're the leader, they're the person in charge, that's why they have the megaphone. They might be motivated by authority and leadership. And so 3 different people on a team may be motivated in 3 different ways. And so there's many theories about motivation and how us as human beings are motivated. I'm going to touch on 3 of them. First one is a needs-based theory. Premise here is that us as human beings, we all have some basic needs ingrained within us. And as a manager, you can help fulfill those needs. And so some of you might be familiar with this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Argument here is that there's 5 basic area of needs that are ingrained in us as humans. And so as a manager or a leader, you can account for those needs. The first one is physiological needs. We have a need for a comfortable working environment, stable working hours, things like that. Hopefully that's already built into the job. That kind of seems like a no-brainer. Second one is a need for safety. Obviously you need safe working conditions, but even the job stability, the job security, even that fulfills that safety need. And so again, hopefully you're already fulfilling that through the jobs for your employees. Third need is a social need. To some level, we all have a social need. Now, some may be more social and less social, and that's okay. Learn those preferences within your team, and then build in things, teamwork, cooperation, group projects. You can build that in, fulfill that social need that your team has. Fourth one is esteem. We all need to hear some praise and recognition. You can definitely offer that as a manager. Take a step back, reflect, am I doing enough of that? It's fulfilling a basic human need. Last one, self-actualization. We want empowerment, authority, autonomy. some ability to make decisions. And so you as a manager, you can build that into the job. You can empower, you can invite your employees into decision making. Do that, it will make the job more rewarding, more motivating. And so that was a little bit of an older theory. You could boil that down into 3 points in kind of a newer needs category theory. Any human being, we need to achieve, we need authority, and we need affiliation. And so those are the same things I've basically just talked about, just kind of condensed down. So take a step back, think of your employees through their jobs and how you interact with them. Are these needs being met? If they're not, make some adjustments. Next theory I want to talk about is cognitive process and behavioral theory. Your people are going to perceive different things through their job, and they're going to change their behaviors based on those perceptions. So this all boils down to equity and expectations. We all have a need and a desire for equity within the workplace. Seems like a no-brainer. And then we all have expectations, an expectation for equity. And so if there is a perception of unfairness or inequity, if some people are not giving as much effort and that's going unpunished, or if people feel like they're not going to be rewarded for their efforts, some adjustments may happen. Your team, your people, they may decrease their inputs to make things more equitable. They may decrease their outputs, or they may become more withdrawn and less motivated. And so as a manager, you need to make sure that there is equity and a perception of equity within the workplace. Seems like a no-brainer. However, some managers kind of shy away from things. There's that one employee that gets treated a little bit different because they're vocal or they're difficult or whatever. They might go a little bit unchecked. Don't do that, because again, if there are inequities or if the inequities are going unpunished, it's going to hurt your team. You can read more about the importance of equity within the workplace. I've got an article link there for you guys. Goal setting, this is a tool that you as managers have in your toolbox to help improve motivation. Goals can be very motivating. They direct attention. They allow your employees to kind of attain and pursue something and set a plan, try to accomplish that. They can set their own strategy. So do goal setting. When you do goal setting, the goal should be SMART. And SMART's an acronym that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. Make sure you check those 5 checkboxes for any goal. And I really want to stress the achievable part. You can set difficult goals. I've heard some people call them stretch goals, and that's okay. But the goal must be achievable. If it's not achievable, the goal will not be accepted by the employee. If it's not accepted, then it's not motivating. For example, I have a programmer, and if I ask my programmer to increase enrollment by 5%, they're not going to feel that it's achievable by themselves. They're not going to accept that goal. That goal will not be motivating. Now, if I have research that says that if our website loads faster, more people will stay on the site, they'll hit the apply now button more, and that will improve enrollment. And so the goal is to increase the page speed by half a second or whatever. That is going to be perceived to be achievable. It will be accepted. Now it will be motivating. Within my office, we do goal setting every September. I have one-on-ones with each of my employees. I ask them to bring 2 or 3 goals. I bring 2 or 3 goals. We talk about them. We make sure they're SMART, and we document them. 3 to 4 months later, we do a goal check-in. Another 3 to 4 months, we do another goal check-in. The next September, we're going to kind of close the arc on that set of goals, and then we're going to start over with a new set. And then, of course, in one-on-ones and other platforms, you can do additional check-ins. So highly recommend, if you're not already doing goal setting, do this. Third theory I want to talk about is intentional job design. The thought process here is that through the job design itself, as a manager, you can affect how motivating it is. What this is called job characteristic theory. It's been around for a long time. There's 5 kind of points or 5 characteristics to jobs that we should be thinking about. The first one is skill variety. How much variety is in the job? The more variety there is, the more motivating it can be. I have a web project manager on my staff, outstanding at managing web projects. They wanted a little bit more variety in their job, and they had a strong interest in crisis communications. There is a web component to crisis comm, but it's not a web project. But we got them training, got them added to the crisis comms team. They love it. Add some skill variety to their job, makes their job more satisfying, makes them more motivated. So that's an example of where if there is not skill variety, as a manager, you have the power to add some. Second point is task identity. How visible is the outcome? I have a photographer on staff who catalogs about 20,000 photos every year. She does not know where all those photos go. They go on websites, social media, print pieces. She can't possibly know all of them, and she's busy getting the photos. So to increase the task identity, I show her some of the really beautiful websites that our web project managers make using her photos. I let her know when I hear about a photo being shared, 20,000 times on Facebook or whatever. That improves the task identity, gets her really excited, and now she wants to go and get more photos. So again, as a manager, you can improve that. Third point is task significance. How does the task affect the lives of others? My programmers are busy hacking away at code, making our websites load really fast, make them really usable. We get a lot of feedback from parents about how easy our website is to use, the search function, the navigation, etc. I make sure to take that feedback because we're affecting those parents and how they get the info they need, filter that back down to my programmers so they know, because otherwise they wouldn't have a clue. So again, as a manager, I'm improving their task significance. Fourth one is autonomy. You have a lot of control as a manager to build more autonomy into the job. And the fifth one is feedback. How much does the worker have the knowledge of the results? If they don't have that knowledge built in, as a manager, you should have access to the results, filter that back into your team. So the gold standard would be is if you could build these into the job, but when you can't, you can fill that gap, close that gap as a manager. If you do that, your employees will be more happy, successful, and motivated. You can read more about job characteristic theory in the model online. And so there's many ways your employees can be motivated as a manager. How do you learn them? Get to know them, as I previously talked about. Have conversations, ask them directly, find out what their motivations are. You can also observe through different team meetings and projects, or you could ask them very directly through a rating system. I've got 5 things here that are different statements that are related to motivation. And I've got 7 more here, put them together, 12 things. You can have each employee rate them in order of most motivating to least motivating, and you can find out more directly how they are motivated. Some are very motivated intrinsically. They want money, they want a title, they want authority. Some of them want to be very creative. You'll find that there's going to be a variety of ways that they might be motivated. It's good to know. So you take this information and you apply it in 2 ways as a manager. You can apply it globally, apply it to your team as a whole. You can also apply it individually. So for example, my team is very motivated by a challenge. We love achievement. And so how I can take advantage of that as a manager, we make like a goal thermometer in our office. For this project, we are converting websites from an old design to a new one. And so it kind of became a contest of who could fill in the goal thermometer the most and the fastest, and could we hit our target date. And so because I know that the majority of the team was motivated in this way, I could use this tool and kind of make some fun with it, and we were able to be successful. Then on an individual level, this is me with our former front-end developer. He was super technically skilled in front end, but very interested in learning more on the business side of things. He wanted to get more in the management and leadership. That's what motivated him kind of moving forward. And so knowing that, we made a plan to do a poster presentation at one of the previous Hyatt Web conferences. I let him manage the project, and the poster and give him a public speaking opportunity. Because I built that into his job, it hit one of the motivations he had, made his job as a whole more motivating. While we were doing this, he also finished all the code for our website redesign and did a wonderful job. So apply motivation at the team level, also at the individual level. Next topic I want to talk about is emotional intelligence. A good leader is going to be able to kind of understand and work through their emotions as well as the emotions of others. Quick definition of what emotional intelligence is, or EI. It's the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. So there's a lot of ways you could look at emotional intelligence, but this model to me breaks it down kind of in the simplest form. If you're going to be emotionally intelligent as a manager or leader, you've got to do these 4 things. You need to be able to perceive emotions. That's the emotions you're feeling and going through. That's also the emotions of others in the room. You need to be able to understand what they are. You have to tell the difference between anger, frustration, sadness, whatever it may be. And then use that information. You need to use it. You need to use it to kind of guide the conversation, guide the thinking, and you need to manage things to move towards your goals. The example I have with this, I led a project where we were redesigning, upgrading, refreshing all the content on our undergraduate admissions website. Finished the project, feedback is outstanding, I'm super happy. And then I get this phone call from one of our clients, and they're very upset or frustrated, not pleased on the phone about this one web page. And so they're upset. It gets me like in a panic mode immediately, right? But I want to let them talk it through, because I feel like anytime you're upset, sometimes venting or talking it through can help. Find out there really wasn't an issue with this web page. There's no content issue. There's no design issue. It was a political issue. It was an internal to them political issue. And me as a business person, I don't really like to deal with that stuff. I don't have time for that. And so I'm instantly frustrated and annoyed. And so my goal is to work through it as quickly as we can, but still make them happy, keep the relationship good. So I let them brainstorm some ideas of how they can make the page better. We agree on one of those ideas, we move forward, I get it knocked out in like 30 minutes then, they're happy, I'm happy. And so it would have been easy for me to really push back and point out like the silliness of all of this. That probably would have made their emotions even worse, probably would have made mine even worse, and we would not have come to a good, happy solution in a short amount of time. So pay attention, work through the emotions, keep an eye on the goal in mind, whatever your goal may be, work through it, and that's like in action what good emotional intelligence is. And empathy is a big part of emotional intelligence. And what empathy is, essentially, it's the ability to put yourself in the shoes of others. And so when I was talking to that admissions person, I was thinking about, okay, if they had some issues or some backstory or something about a page, they might be annoyed if the marketing person didn't know about it or didn't care about it or whatever. And so I did try to put myself in their shoes. Maybe I didn't agree with it. I'm not saying you always have to agree with the other side, but if you can think about it and appreciate it, it's going to help you react a little bit differently, a little bit better to it. Empathy, I've got an article here that I thought was kind of funny from HBR, how to display empathy for someone who annoys you. You probably all have that person or persons, not necessarily on your team, but maybe it's a client that you have to work with or whatever. If you can display them empathy, it actually makes the working relationship, the projects, the things you do with them actually a little bit more bearable and enjoyable. So read that, think about empathy, try to think about where the other person is coming from. That's really going to help you as a manager and as a leader. And there's a lot of research about how empathy leads to really good results. In the workplace for sure, even in your personal life, your friendships, your other relationships. So practice empathy. There's an article here about how emotionally intelligent people are able to display empathy. And so you can read more about that as well. Last thing I want to talk about related to emotional intelligence is the kind of the personal side of things, personal styles. We all have different preferences about how we problem solve and how we communicate. And so problem solving is a big part of our jobs, right? We're all dealing with problems. That's why we have jobs. And so there is a thing I've been introduced to called the Kolbe test. It's kind of like a personality test, but it really focuses on problem solving. How do you attack problems and how do you solve them as a person? And the Kolbe test, you're going to fall into one of 4 buckets. First bucket you might fall into is fact finder. A fact finder, when presented with a problem, they want to get all the facts and all the information first before they move forward. Second mode is a quick start. The problem comes, if you're a quick start, you want to deal with it right away. You want to do something. So for me personally, I'm a fact finder. I love data, I love analytics, I love research. My boss is a quick start. Problem comes up, he just starts doing stuff. And so what's interesting about that is we're kind of opposites. There is room for conflict then. My boss starts doing stuff, I may become annoyed because he doesn't have the information yet. And then I'm getting the information and he's like, why have you done nothing? And so what's interesting about the Kolbe test is it brings awareness to these different styles. And if you're able to acknowledge the differences, you can kind of meet in the middle or mitigate some of the potential conflict that could arise. The third mode is called follow through. If you're high in follow through, you like to use previous models, previous examples, other methods of problem solving that were successful in the past and follow through with them to move them forward. And then the final mode is called implementer. You like to dream and brainstorm. You get your hands dirty, tinker, and build things. And so I am a fact finder, but if I don't have time for all the facts, then I do follow through. I rely on previous knowledge and a previous example to solve the problem. My boss is a quick start. He's also an implementer, loves to dream and tinker with things. So again, we're kind of pretty nice opposites, but because we know that about each other, then when we're working together, we can kind of meet in the middle and avoid conflict and actually work well together. And so for your teams, you're going to have a variety of problem-solving styles. It's really helpful as a manager to understand the differences, but also make your team aware so that they can work better together. We all also have different communication styles. Some of us like in-person communication, some of us like electronic communications. Some of us are very reactive in the moment. Some of us want to be very thoughtful. And so if you're someone, like I like to be pretty thoughtful. I like to kind of take my time, and if I've got another employee who's very reactive, they might come storming over to my desk and blah, 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 blah. That is another opportunity for conflict when you have 2 people with differing styles. And so if you can learn the communication styles on your team, as a manager, you'll be able to work better with all of your team. If you can also raise awareness and acknowledge the different styles on your team can be more successful as well. The point of all this, problem solving, communicating, it is an extension of our personalities. What that means is there's not a right way. So you can and should value the differences that are on your team, embrace them, because there isn't one right way. Through all of this, emotional intelligence, problem solving, communicating, empathy, practice makes better. Be aware of where your shortcomings are and try to make improvements. Trust each other, be kind, value the differences, do all of these things. The last thing that I want to touch on is structure. A good manager or a good leader is going to create a system, then they're going to step back, and they're going to let their team be successful. And so I manage our web team, and we've got different jobs and roles and people, professional staff as well as students. I also manage our studio team. When you put that all together, I've got 11 total staff members, 10 total student staff members, so a fairly big team with a variety of different preferences, personalities. I needed to create some structure with the team, and so we spent a lot of time, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like the right balance of meetings and what the different flavors of meetings were. And so I have some meetings that are at the full digital services team level. I've got some meetings related to just their studio, some related to our web team. I've got some subgroup meetings, and I have some one-on-one check-ins. Through all of this, it may sound like a lot of meetings, and maybe it is, but I would argue that my job is to be there for my people. Part of the way I'm there for them is through meetings, so my job is to be in some meetings. And that is okay, and I embrace that. And I want to make sure that my team is connected and has time to work well together. Other tools that we use besides meetings, we use Monday.com as our project management tool, and we have a certain set of standards about how we use that tool. We use Groove as our ticketing system. Our client requests flow into Groove, and we've got standards and mechanisms for how we use that tool. We use Kanban cards on our team. Each project that comes through, we have a Kanban card for it, and then each team member has a little Kanban board with all their different projects. We've got a weekly stand-up Kanban meeting where we kind of go through them and update each other. We also have a fun little reward system where we complete Kanban cards, we get a sticker, and then if someone went above and beyond or they dealt with that especially difficult client, you can nominate people for bonus stickers, so we have a little bit of fun too. Through all of this, it's important to create structure with freedom. You don't want to overdo it. And so as a manager, make some structure, but then take a step back and examine things. Ask your team how things are going, take cues from your team and make adjustments. We had a couple standing meetings where it seemed like we never really had anything for them, so we just got rid of them, and that's okay. Make adjustments, listen to your team, go from there. Because a good manager is going to lay the groundwork for success, they're then going to get out of the way and let the team shine. And so what you don't want is this. If you don't have enough structure, you're going to have a lot of indecision, fighting. You're not going to get things done. Hopefully you set things up well so you have this. And I actually had a real life situation. My wife and I were trying to start a family via adoption. And one day I got a phone call that there was a newborn baby girl that we were able to adopt. So I had to step away from work for 2 months. And through that, I got a lot of compliments, and my team got a lot of compliments about how well they worked together and kept the ball moving forward while I was away. Now, honestly, the reason it went so well is because I've got the greatest set of people, the greatest team there is. But probably some of that success comes with good structure. A few parting shots as I've only got a couple minutes left. Do team bonding. We did a smelter tour, which is a mining thing. You're the manager, you're paying, you're feeding them, you're getting them out of work. Do team bonding, do those things. Where you can, share your strategy. Move the curtain, be open and share things where possible. Empower your employees and value them. Shine the light on them, especially in higher ed. Sometimes the light isn't always there for your employees. Bring it there, be that person. Be a good model and a good teacher. A good manager is going to prepare their employees for the next thing, the bigger and the better. Graduate your employees, get them ready to move on to bigger and better things. So if you can have leadership, motivation, emotional intelligence, and structure, you do these 4 things, I argue you will be a good manager. Please evaluate my talk via the website. Hit the evaluate button. First time I've done this talk, I'm really interested in how useful this is, so please give me some feedback. I've got some business cards up front on the table if you guys want to connect with me offline. But with that, do I have some time for questions? All right.
About 8 minutes, 7 minutes.
All right, I got a few minutes. Who's got some questions? You guys are also welcome to connect with me on Twitter, email me, LinkedIn, anything.
This is a kind of general question, but how do you deal with conflict within teams, like within people who you manage
Yeah.
between each other?
Yeah, so the question is how I deal with conflict kind of across team members. First thing, there's probably two forms of conflict. There's probably like in the moment, like there's clear conflict happening, and then there's probably like I take a step back, I notice there's an issue. So in the moment conflict, I would try to acknowledge the different points of view while also kind of de-escalating the emotions. You don't necessarily have to solve the problem right, the conflict right in that moment. And so just getting kind of people to settle down, acknowledge some things, and then hopefully maybe later that day or the next day, having a conversation about it. I think that's what I would do. And then for kind of where you see an issue or one of the people in the conflict mentions the issue and it's been festering for a little while, person A, I will talk to them about what I think the viewpoint of person B might be, helping them get into person B's shoes, displaying some empathy. Then I go over in a different one-on-one to person B, and I talk about the conflict with person A. I don't necessarily say, person A said blah, 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 blah. I'll be like, I've kind of seen, what do you think about this? And I try to get them to have some empathy and get into the shoes of person A. And then I try to take a step back and see if a behavior change will happen. If a behavior change happens, I didn't have to call anybody out. I didn't make it a big deal, but we were able to move forward. If there isn't a behavior change, then I will much more directly say that, this is an issue. Again, in a one-on-one, still no change, then does this turn off? I think my microphone died. I might have to have like a 2-person or a 3-person meeting or something then. Anybody else?
Anything on the chat?
You talked a little bit about understanding other people's communication styles and your own communication style. Do you have any advice for honoring other people's communication styles, but maybe setting boundaries that are appropriate so that you don't get too sucked into their communication styles?
Yeah.
When they're in your office all day?
Yeah, so the question is kind of how do you deal or manage the different communication styles? You don't want to just fully cater to that other style. I'm all about trying to meet in the middle. And so to me, some of it is like what's the deadline or the situation? If there's like a deadline coming up, it's less about which style and more about we've got to like get to the goal in hand. But otherwise, I will try to maybe respect their thing, whatever their communication preference is, but then I will talk to them about it and I'll try to brainstorm like, can we do this other thing? And I'll try to like meet in the middle. And so I do a lot of emails like off hours because I have a family and some of my little girl goes to bed, then I can get some stuff done. And I know who is cool with seeing emails at 9, which is almost no one, and who is not. And then to meet halfway, I still write the emails at 9, but I have an add-on that doesn't send the email till 8 a.m. the next day. But I talked to everybody about it, and I also said sometimes when I'm stressed and I've got so much to do, I will accidentally fire it off and not schedule it. I apologize, but this is what it is. You do not have to respond at that hour. And so I do the best I can, but when I mess up, I've explained why, so they can have kind of that empathy and realize, okay, Joel's not thinking I'm going to respond at this time. So yeah, talk it through, I guess, is the best advice I can give. Try to do your best to meet them halfway, but acknowledge there'll probably be some slip-ups, and we're all humans.
Any more questions? All right, well, thank you very much, Joel.
Yeah, thank you.
So it is time for lunch, and please do not forget to fill out your evaluations.